On January 3, 2026, at exactly 2 in the morning, the entire power grid in Caracas suddenly failed. While the city sat in darkness, 150 American military aircraft took off from 20 different bases. Helicopters flew inches above the ocean to evade radar, dropping Delta Force commandos directly onto a residential roof. Their target was Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Within 5 minutes of the commandos breaching his bedroom window, he was captured. He was loaded onto a helicopter, flown to a military base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and then transported onto American soil in chains. The airstrikes destroyed the city's defense infrastructure and killed 40 people. Later that day, U.S. President Donald Trump told the press the operation was like watching television. The United States invaded a sovereign nation and caused massive destruction, ostensibly to execute a standard law enforcement drug warrant. The extreme violence on the ground simply did not match the paperwork. The official legal justification for the raid, an indictment out of New York, charges the Venezuelan leadership with narco-terrorism and a massive cocaine importation conspiracy. This map tracks the actual supply chain of America's leading overdose killer, fentanyl. The precursor chemicals originate in China, they are manufactured into drugs in Mexico, and they cross the U.S. border. Venezuela has zero involvement in this trade. And looking at this bar chart comparing 2018 cocaine exports, Guatemala shipped 1,400 metric tons. Venezuela sits way down here, moving a fraction of that volume. Yet the United States military bypassed the massive exporter, dropping airstrikes entirely on the smallest fraction. With the drug math falling apart, observers pointed to domestic politics. Weeks prior, a massive trove of court documents was released, bringing heavy media scrutiny to the president. The Epstein files contained highly damaging allegations regarding his past associations, giving the administration a clear motive to manufacture a media distraction. But coordinating 150 military aircraft requires months of advanced planning. A sudden PR crisis, or a geographically flawed drug warrant, does not explain the sheer scale of a midnight invasion. The target was something far, far more permanent. This chart visualizes global proven crude oil reserves. The largest share does not belong to Saudi Arabia, Iran, or the United States. It belongs to Venezuela, sitting on 303 billion barrels. Venezuelan crude is heavy and sour, perfect for manufacturing diesel and asphalt. Since the 1970s, American refineries in places like Texas and Louisiana have been explicitly engineered to process this exact type of oil. The relationship between American corporations and Venezuelan oil flowed smoothly until 2001, when then-President Hugo Chavez pushed through the Organic Hydrocarbons Law. This legislation nationalized the industry, transferring ownership of the oil reserves away from American corporations to the state. The profits stayed inside the country. The United States responded with 2 decades of severe economic sanctions, deliberately choking off the country's export capabilities. Today, Venezuela produces less than 1% of the global supply. The day after the raid, President Trump declared that Venezuela keeping its own oil was a theft. He then announced that U.S. energy companies would soon rebuild the infrastructure. When you look at the historical timeline, the raid on Caracas operates completely outside the bounds of law enforcement. It functioned as a hostile corporate takeover, executed by the U.S. military, to reclaim control over 1/5 of the world's energy supply. The United States Constitution strictly requires congressional approval to declare war. The president bypassed the legislature entirely, launching the assault unilaterally. He also bypassed Article 2, Section 4 of the United Nations Charter, which explicitly prohibits the use of military force against the territorial integrity of another sovereign state. Leaders from Brazil, Mexico, Norway, and China issued sharp condemnations. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres declared the invasion a direct violation of the UN Charter. This diagram shows exactly why those condemnations hold no legal weight. The United Nations Security Council has the authority to issue sanctions, but the United States holds a permanent veto over the council. Any attempt to hold America accountable is immediately blocked. Knowing there is no global mechanism to stop him, the president is already publicly threatening to run this exact same military playbook against Colombia and Mexico. A global superpower has realized it can physically seize another nation's natural resources without facing consequences. The post-war era of international law has collapsed, replaced by a system where military strength is the only rule. This leads to yet another world war.